Nintendo is very passionate about their community. So passionate, in fact, they single-handedly created 20 more definitions for the word spite. Nintendo seems to really sort of hate their community with a burning passion, and that's to be expected at this point. After the new Switch Online thing rolled around, where they upped the price by $30, I've really just been thinking about emulation, and why it's just such a great option right now, especially with Nintendo's new price hike for N64 games. And emulation has been around for a while, and Nintendo has been very actively trying to stop it. But emulation still prevails. But the question remains, should you emulate? And the answer is very simple. If you want to play Nintendo games and don't want to spend hundreds of dollars buying the original console and the games, then yeah, go ahead and emulate. It's perfectly fine. But there are a few caveats to this. But first, let's address a few issues. If you're worried that Nintendo is losing a profit on this, don't be, because Nintendo's probably spending more money on this, canceling all the emulation, than they would have just accepting it. Because Nintendo doesn't lose any money, because a lot of these consoles, they don't sell anymore, and same with the games. You want to play Melee on Dolphin? You gotta hunt down a copy of Melee on eBay, and the GameCube as well. And you're buying them from third-party sellers, not an official Nintendo website. So, here's the thing, Nintendo doesn't make any money off of that. They already made the money off of that GameCube and off of that copy of Melee. So, it really makes no sense that Nintendo is going out of their way to cancel the community for this. But Nintendo will be Nintendo, so that's to be expected. But emulation is perfectly safe if you go to the right places. I could recommend Dolphin, and Dolphin for Dreamcast, Dolphin for Wii games and GameCube games, Redream for Dreamcast games. And there's a lot of great places to go. And as long as you go to a legit website for ROMs like Vim's Lair, you'll be perfectly safe online when emulating. And it's just overall a great way to experience these past games without having to hunt down for prices and deals on eBay or Kijiji or whatever else you buy. Nintendo is going out of their way to stop this, but it's not doing anyone any harm. The only thing harmed is Nintendo's profits after they see the legal fees. But overall, really, this all comes down to, recently Nintendo announced their new Nintendo 64 Online expansion. Nintendo thought to themselves, what do we do to save our online system? Well, let's add N64 games that the community has been clamoring for, and let's throw in some Sega games just for fun. Ooh, and maybe the new Animal Crossing DLC. But what? We can't just increase by at least by $10? If we increased it by $10, then it would be a good value? No, Nintendo can't do that. So Nintendo decides, yeah, let's hike it up. And they priced $50 a year for a single person subscription. That's up from the $20 it used to be. And this goes especially rough on the family plan, which is now $85. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I'm pretty sure it might be $80. And that's up from the $35 that it was before. So, it's clear what Nintendo's motives for this are. Money. And they're clearly not stopping anytime soon. So, if you were looking forward to playing Nintendo 64 games on your Switch, well, I have an alternate solution for you. But what could have Nintendo done here? Well, instead of including the Animal Crossing DLC, which you get either way even if you don't have Animal Crossing, they could have just left out the Animal Crossing DLC and made it separate. I get it that it's sort of an incentive to buy it, but you're still paying an extra cost every single year, and you're not getting a second Animal Crossing DLC. So, it's really not worth it if you don't play Animal Crossing and if you're not interested in the DLC. The thing is, you can buy the DLC without paying for Switch Online, but you can't buy Switch Online without paying for the DLC. Which is basically another way Nintendo's money grubbing, but even that's not true because they're allowing you to buy the DLC separately. At least if they locked it behind the Switch Online paywall, then it'd make sense at least. But that's Nintendo for you. So, I think a $5 to $10 price hike would have been appreciated because they still haven't made any improvements to their Switch Online. But, alas, no improvements are in sight, at least for now. Maybe they're waiting for the new Switch model, I don't know. But for now, Switch Online, not a great service, and it's definitely not worth a $30 price hike. So what should you do instead? Well, buy Animal Crossing DLC separately if you're interested. Keep sticking with the $20 plan or $35 plan you had originally. Keep rocking that. There's nothing wrong with it, like you don't have to upgrade. All you're getting are Sega games, which you can already play through a collection, and Nintendo 64 games, which you can easily emulate. Another thing, Nintendo seems really hesitant to bring over their heavy backlog of games to the Switch, but again, expected at this point, so you can just emulate the N64 games. You're not going to get hunted down by the Nintendo ninjas or arrested or anything like that. The worst that'll happen is, well, nothing really. I've been emulating games on Dolphin for the past while now, and it's been great. I get to enjoy a wide array of games that I couldn't otherwise, because I'd have to hunt down a Wii or a GameCube, get the original copies of those games. Overall, emulation is just more convenient, and it's a perfectly acceptable thing to do, unless you're emulating modern consoles. Now, Nintendo Switch, PS4, and Xbox One emulation, while they're still in their infancy phases, this is less acceptable than actually buying the consoles, because Nintendo is actually making an active profit, and if more and more people emulate Nintendo Switch games, Nintendo is losing money on this. So, it's debatable whether it should be allowed or not, because things go out of line when the company actually starts losing money. Emulating older titles like GameCube and Wii, that's totally fine because Nintendo isn't making money off of those right now. But this is going to cut like an active portion of their profits if a lot of people start using Switch emulators. So it's really debatable whether this is acceptable now, but overall I'd say don't emulate modern platforms. Just emulate some retro stuff. There's already a huge library of games out there you can play from trusted developers, trusted emulator creators, and trusted ROM sites. Now, for now, don't buy the new Switch Online because it is not worth the money. Keep on emulating, or if you don't emulate, try it out. Maybe you'll find a new thing to enjoy. That's it for me, Devron.